Yeah, I'm waiting another, say, minute. I can see a couple more people joining in the process of joining, so let them come into the GoToWebinar system and then we'll kick off. Okay, so once again, thank you very much everybody for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Nigel Canning. I'm a UK sales engineer for the south of the UK. What I try to do with these webinars, and particularly with the slide sets, the slide decks, is that hopefully there's probably a lot more information in there than we have time for within the actual webinar. But you will get sent the slide decks as a PDF after the webinar via the marketing people, by the marketing system. So there are various things in there hopefully that you'll find useful, be it links or technical comparisons or so on and so forth. So some bits I might zoom through quite quickly. At the end, I quite often hang on the line, so to speak, for questions. If anybody wants anything further, they can obviously get in touch with me. But I'll get started now. But yeah, so the gist of it is there's quite a lot of information in the slides, probably too much for the allotted time, so I'll get started. One of the things we wanted to make clear to everybody, obviously we've been around in networking, product design, so on and so forth for many years. These are just some examples of the awards and so on and so forth. Obviously, going back many years, it always used to be like magazines and so on and so forth. You'd have the awards. Obviously nowadays there's electronic versions of the awards. We do specialize in the small to medium size business sector, and we have very good solutions for that particular space. So these are some of the examples of well-known magazines and online magazines and so on and so forth now that we get very good reviews for, particularly in the SMB space. So where we're coming from is a complete solution set. So this is obviously a webinar on security, but clearly we do Ethernet switching, a huge part of our business. Another big part of our business is Wi-Fi, things like GPON, LTE, 5G devices, and a cloud management platform called Nebula, which we're not going to go into today. But if you want a complete end-to-end solution with security devices, Ethernet switching, wireless and reporting and so on and so forth behind it, if you're an MSP, that sort of thing, clearly we do all of that as well. So basically, this is just a summary that we do a comprehensive portfolio from an end-to-end point of view. And this is just pointing out security appliances, wireless solutions, LAN, gateways, so on and so forth. As I said, the slides are coming your way, so don't worry about it too much. One of the things that we did realize specifically to do with network security, because we do have a broad range of products, it's perhaps not so obvious to some people that have been using our Ethernet switching and wireless products for quite a while that we do a significant range of network security products. So this year we're putting quite a bit of emphasis into the network security products that Zyxel provides. There's be some additional links and promotions at the end of the slide deck as well. But this is our sort of new look and feel for Zyxel network security. There's a couple of slides at the end which show you some links, which I'll try and show you if I can switch in and out of the webinar. But basically, we've been in this game for well over 20 years now from the internet security side of things. We've been registered with, I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but quite a big organization in the States called the ICSA Labs. Basically, you register your security device against them. They independently test it. You can see the test results. You can see any issues. You can see the fixes for those issues. Most manufacturers in the security space, if they're serious about it, use ICSA Labs. So, we do take this seriously. We also have relationships with all of the big internet security vendors. We leverage their best of breed products. Sorry, my phone's pinging. We leverage their best of breed products, integrate them with our hardware, our platform, our security products, our security engines, our cloud-based security engines as well, to create a really secure security solution, as I said, in the small to medium-sized business space. But you can see the caliber of people that we've got relationships with, global companies like McAfee. Last line I go over in a minute, Trend Micro, well-known, Bitdefender, and obviously Webroot. So we're not pretending to be to know everything. We leverage the best of breed products, as I said, bring them together as great secure networking solutions. What the next series of slides try to do is to show you the functionality that our sort of device set provides, and then subsequent devices break it down into the different product families and so on and so forth, which I'll go through. But basically, obviously, see all of our devices have VPN functionality, obviously remote access as well as site to site. We have wide area network load balancing. So nearly, I think I'm correct in saying nearly all devices have multiple WAN ports. So basically WAN 1 and WAN 2 on the lower end devices. The upper end devices, any port can be used as a WAN port as well. So obviously you can have active WAN load balancing on that, or if one circuit fails, you can fail over to say a 4G or a 5G router type device. As it says here, obviously that can be multiple WANs with mobile broadband. Years ago, people used to use like the USB 3G sticks. I'd say less and less nowadays. It's more really to do with an external 4G device or newer 5G devices connected via Ethernet to the WAN port, because then you can put the LTE device outside, PoE powered, much better signal, much better throughput, so on and so forth. With regards to VPN functionality, we also have what's called the virtual tunnel interface, which is basically an ability to create a sort of redundant VPN trunk over to remote sites so that you get load balancing and so on and so forth. Obviously, another area of functionality is remote access. We offer SSL VPNs. So that's for Windows. There's a free SSL VPN client that you can download for Windows. You have to unfortunately pay for the macOS version because it has a licensable library in it from, I think it's Apple, so obviously that needs to be purchased. It's not a great amount of money. So the client license, you've got the SSL VPN client for the Windows or Mac environments. We also support level 2 tunneling protocol over IPsec VPNs, which is very popular in Windows 10, Linux, even on Android phones and so on and so forth, effectively local dial-in type of connectivity. And it's free. And then obviously some of the areas of VPNs is quite complicated for maybe general IT or PC support people rather than say pure networking people. So we have sort of zero configuration type wizards to make it easier to create VPNs, so you don't have to worry too much about all the phase 1 and phase 2 parameters basically. And then obviously it's just saying we're using the modern hashes so that you can be reassured that the remote access is secure. The other areas of functionality is what the UTM type functionality. Obviously, we offer antivirus capabilities, content filtering, where you can basically characterize the content that's trying to be downloaded or accessed, and then block it, firewall it, throttle it back, so on and so forth. Then you've got layer 7 intelligence for the top end devices. So once again, that's where you can characterize an application and then apply policies to it. So traffic shape it, give it a priority, like if it's a voice call, that sort of thing, obvious type of things. Then for the top end devices, we have geographical enforcement capabilities. So obviously, if you wanted to simply say you don't want to allow any access to China or Russia, apologies, picking on them, you can now do geographical enforcement, which is not an easy thing to do because the IP networks were never designed to do that. Then also we've got additional frontline facilities. So these are the more useful security engines that are in the system, in the solutions to enable you to get the very difficult security issues like zero-day vulnerabilities, botnets that can do quite a lot of damage. There's some special engines within our cloud security engine to help track and prevent that sort of thing. Obviously, any UTM device has got intrusion detection and prevention. That's a sort of given nowadays, I would say. And then once again, one of our more upmarket range of products, I'm going to go over these in more detail. Basically, I have a thing called the reputation filter. It's quite an interesting concept. There's been quite a lot of research lately, which is basically a lot of the security threats that are going on at any given time in real time is representative of what the current sort of zero-day threats and really dodgy security issues that are out there. So by having probes essentially at numerous places, sort of pops around the globe, you can see what that security real-time threat pattern is, and you can block it, and you can achieve an awful lot of security off of the back of the reputation filter. But that's quite a more upmarket, and that's one of the special license features from one of the other providers that we use. Then we have some additional functionality for these on-premise devices. If you want to use the devices to manage access points, you can do. And this is just showing you basically you have the facilities to deploy and manage access points from the actual web GUI of the security device. And then we also have hotspot management. So this is really for perhaps getting on a bit nowadays, but if you are maybe a caravan site and you still charge for Wi-Fi access, there are facilities in there to have hotspot management. And then there's some other sort of system level type functionality here in most of the devices. So link aggregation is where you basically bond two Ethernet circuits together so that if one failed, you can continue to transport data. For the sort of the middle to top end products, we have a feature called High Availability Pro. That's where you basically, and that's a free feature, that's where basically you buy two devices, they run in lockstep, active passive mode. If one of them dies, the second device takes over. Basically there's a heartbeat cable between the two devices, all states are kept active. So literally, as I said, if one device failed, the standby device takes over immediately and you won't lose connections or anything. We also offer SSL in packet inspection with the appropriate certificates installed. And we also offer like radius integration for things like Active Directory. So if you've got an on-premise AD or even an Azure AD, you can hook the security devices into your administration mechanism, authentication mechanism. And so you don't have to have another set of users being managed by the local database on the security device. You can do that, but it makes more sense to use integration with AD and things like that. Then what we move on to is some features which perhaps this is where the slides, there's some duplication later on, but basically what we're trying to get across is that there are a number of options in security solutions. You can either have a very big on-premise device with a lot of storage, a lot of processing power, and you download all of the kind of engine solutions onto that. But that's very inefficient if you've got a cloud security resource that you can use. So the stance that we've taken, because obviously this is for the small to medium-sized business sector, is an appropriately sized on-premise device which can then leverage the cloud security engine. So this is where the express mode comes into its own. So basically you have a stream of data going through it. The on-premise device creates a hash from that stream of data and it gets passed over to our cloud security engine, which is hosted in Amazon Web Service. And that obviously that AWS resource is huge and vast, way more than any on-premise major server could provide. So the cloud security engine then responds back to the on-premise device, passing or rejecting the file transfer or the security access that's been requested. And forget the USG, that's the legacy products. The new products, the Usg Flex and the ATPs. But this just shows you basically where you can use the modes, what's available on what product, which is coming up in a minute. But so these express mode features and our sort of integration with various cloud engines and so on and so forth shows that you can basically leverage an appropriately sized on-premise device with the cloud security engine and get way better performance than a large server on-premise at a reduced cost, which is particularly important in the SMB space. And then here we have basically it's a table that's just trying to show you the advantages and the disadvantages of the features and so on and so forth. So obviously, if you're using a cloud-based engine, the express mode, which is one of the most popular ones, a disadvantage of that is that it only works with an internet connection. So it won't work disconnected from the internet. But if you think about it, you can only realistically nowadays do proper security if you've got access to the internet to update all the heuristics, databases, the scanning engines, and all kinds of things. So it's not really that much of a disadvantage because it's not really an appropriate mode of working. So each mode has different features, different advantages, different disadvantages, and so on and so forth. So one of your choices as a reseller is obviously to discuss with your client what their requirements are, and then to choose the appropriate device and the appropriate engine, and then configure it, so on and so forth. And that's where these slides come into their own. One of the final things that's very important to point out now is obviously a lot of customers are using cloud-based resources within Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure. And what we have done, we've gone to the trouble of getting all of our devices, the 3 different families, registered and certified by the appropriate major cloud vendors. So and there are support articles and so on and so forth to show you how to set up a secure VPN from your office or even from home using one of our devices into AWS or Microsoft Azure. So all of your cloud-based facilities that you're using can be secured via a VPN, and it's fairly straightforward to set up. Now we come to a little bit of a sort of gentle introduction to the product families. So as I said right at the beginning, we realized perhaps we weren't as clear to our resellers what the product ranges were. And so what we've decided to do is create what we call the Simplicity family, the Flexibility family, and the Ultimate family. And you can see that the Simplicity family is the VPN series, Flexibility family is the Usg Flex series, and the Ultimate is the ATP series. So the slides that are coming up are going to go through the Simplicity series, some details, product ranges, comparative information. Then after that, I move on to the Flexibility series, the Usg Flex, do the same thing, and then do the same thing for the Ultimate and ATP at the end. But that's the gist of the product family, is Simplicity or Flexibility or the Ultimate. Obviously, then you're seeing a left to right increase in capabilities and the level of security, so on and so forth. But this is quite a nice sort of simple, hopefully, description of our three product families. So here you can see the series name, and then you can see a lot of the straightforward features. You can see what is included with the device, what isn't included with the device, what is licensed, what isn't, or what is not licensed. The way I would describe the Simplicity, i.e. the VPN product family, that's, if you like, a traditional, VPN going back many years when VPNs first came out. Standard sort of site-to-site functionality, firewalling rules, NATing, so on and so forth. Obviously, it's got wireless LAN controller capabilities. It has some licensable features like content filtering and hotspot management and so on and so forth. The Flexibility family, which is the so-called Usg Flex family, comes with obviously a lot more features if you come with a bundled license. What I would say is there's a number of types of licensing models. The VPN effectively comes with no licensing. You can license essentially a single feature, which is content filtering and wireless LAN controlling nodes. The Usg Flex, on the whole, comes bundled with a full featured license, so all of the black dots are all of the features that it comes with. You can buy the Usg Flex if you want in an unbundled condition, so that's just the hardware, and then you can individually license those features that you want. Obviously, that's not as cost effective as buying the device with the bundled license, but the flexibility is there for you in the licensing model of the Usg Flex. The Ultimate family, the ATP, comes with what's called a gold license, and that comes with all of those features with the gold license. There are no other licenses. There's no silver license. There's no hardware bundled only. Essentially, the ATP product family has to come with the gold license, and that's the way it is. Licenses tend to come for a year or 2 years. They obviously need to be renewed at the end of that year to maintain the full security functionality. The box doesn't stop working, but obviously, security, signatures, and heuristics and everything like that won't work after that year properly. Excuse me, just grab some water. So now we move on to details of the first product family, the Simplicity family, the VPN series. All of the slides have a very similar look and feel. You have the sort of physical look and feel of the devices. You can see the sort of core functionality. So this offers options for wireless controller functionality and content filtering. Slightly misleading, and I would ignore the SD-WAN. You can buy a special license for the VPN hardware to create an SD-WAN solution, but that's a completely separate story, so kind of park that. And obviously it has features like device high availability, which becomes available when you reach a certain model number. That feature is free as well. Then you see the Usg Flex, the Flexibility family, once again, detailing its high performance. It's on new hardware, has wireless controller functionality, enhanced UTM features, so all of the kind of things you'd expect. There's an interesting comment here about flexible management, which I'll make that clear in a minute, and it also has device high availability as well. If anybody is aware of our Nebula cloud management family, they'll know that the word flex within switching and wireless and so on and so forth means that you can manage the device under the cloud, under the Nebula Cloud platform, or you can manage it on-premise. So the flexibility is on-premise or cloud management. The Usg Flex family, one of its advantages as well, at the end of March, beginning of April, it will be manageable via Nebula, which is quite, I won't say more than useful. It's a really good feature coming up at the end of March, basically. So you can either use it in standalone mode, the Usg Flex, or you could say start using it now, knowing that you can migrate it to the Nebula Cloud in about 2 or 3 months' time. Then you have the Ultimate ATP series. So you can see the look and feel is very similar. You obviously got a couple of bigger, higher-end devices with more Ethernet ports and so on and so forth, emphasizing device high availability, enhanced UTM as before. But it's starting to introduce features like the sandboxing technology, which is all to do with guarding against zero-day threats, which will be gone over in a minute in the actual detailed pages of the presentation. And it also has what they call the URL threat filter. So basically, that's a way of helping you detect and prevent like botnets and so on and so forth, which I touched on earlier on. So there's it's a very simple kind of introduction to the 3 product families, and then the slides move on to a more detailed overview of the products. So this is the Simplicity VPN series. Once again, I'm going to start going through these quite quickly because you've seen some of these, but basically the gist of it is, if you feel you need to talk to a customer about a particular product range, you can cut these slides out yourself and just talk to them about the Simplicity series. Or if you want the higher end security, then you look at the Ultimate. So the slides and then the slide deck is very similar. You have the introduction, then you start to see the actual individual products, hopefully in a quite sensible way. Forget the VPN 2S, I should have taken that out, so apologies, it's not included. But basically you can kind of see the capacity of the device, its stateful packet inspection throughput. Does it have UTM functionality? If so, what's that throughput? And also what's its VPN throughput, number of interfaces, so on and so forth. This kind of column-based feature selection applies to all the slides. So I'm going to go through these quite quickly, but you can basically talk to your customer, work out what their sort of internet circuit is, or even their private circuits, what kind of capacity do they need, how many WAN ports do they need SFP ports because it's fiber connectivity, do they want to manage on-premise access points, all that kind of thing. So basically find out your customer's requirements, maybe add a bit more to cope with, say, a 3-year or 5-year project, or increases in requirements, select the appropriate device. And then all of our slides then come with, for instance, competitive matrix information. So you can have a look at our model in the red column. So you can look at the firewall throughput, WAN, LAN ports, all that kind of thing. You know, do you want a VPN site-to-site support? How much VPN throughput? And then obviously you can compare that against some of the competitive models. So I'm going to go through these quite quickly because literally it's just each device is on there. It allows you to compare it to a competitor. Obvious stuff. So hopefully that will help you as a reseller. So that was a brief sort of run through of the Simplicity VPN series. Now we move on to the Flexibility series, the Usg Flex series. One of the important things to point out, this is a new platform, the Usg Flex, all new hardware, new CPUs, more memory, SoCs, or integrated processors and things like that. They've got encryption instructions in the CPU, so you get a much higher throughput, much bigger bang for your buck, I suppose is a simple way of putting it, even though the devices look of similar size and scale. So once again, much higher performance, not just due to the hardware, but some of the new features as well, cloud streaming and so on and so forth. Once again, it's just pointing out flexible management. You will be able to manage this via Nebula if you wish at the end of March, beginning of April. And it's just describing you've got enhanced UTM features. And then obviously you'll see that this express mode feature is essentially repeated from the original slide deck, which is an overview of all of them. So once again, it's just showing you the level of performance that you can get by using the cloud-based engines, using the cloud query. Basically, the hash goes over the internet. So that applies to Usg Flex and ATP. You can see here there's a comment about the increases in performance. world-leading detection rates because you're using, a cloud security engine which has global probes as to what's going on in the internet. So you can choose your combination of modes, how much you're prepared to pay, so on and so forth, and that makes it easy to make your choice. One of the things, obviously, by using the cloud mode engine and the newer hardware, there's one of those unfortunate marketing claims, say 500% in performance improvement. There is a substantial performance improvement, obviously, but you need to be sensible about your choice and your traffic patterns and so on and so forth. If you're already aware of our legacy Usg family, which is now essentially being replaced by the Usg Flex, you will see the older model in the grey with firewall and UTM throughput rates, and then you can compare that against its replacement model. Quite straightforward. So hopefully, there's a lot of people out there. There's an awful lot of USG devices out there. There's hundreds of thousands of them. So obviously, some of these slides, it's very important that people know what to upgrade and replace it with. Then we move on to these sort of selection type slides as we did before with the simple ones. You've got columns that show throughput. This time, obviously, UTM capabilities because these are UTM devices. Make your choice. One thing for the USG Flex and the ATP family coming up, the higher end devices, any device with a W in it has a built-in access point functionality. So you see the aerials on the device. So if you wanted a good security solution for maybe a coffee shop or a small business, or maybe even some people are using them at home to secure their home environments, their work environments. Oops, sorry, that's my home phone. Sorry. Oh, how do I quiet it? Sorry. Oh, my wife's going to get it. Apologies, everyone. Sorry. I'll wait till it stops. Oh, it stopped. So yes, so the W devices basically mean built-in wireless access point, but that's really more for, as I said, small office, a cafe or something like that. For a proper, wireless solution, you still want external access points. Move on to the next one. Obviously, when you get to the sort of the 500 family in the Usg Flex and the 700, you're getting into some pretty big devices, rack mountable, multiple ports. It's got 7 gigabit ports, 1 SFP. The 700 moves on to 12 gigabit ports, 2 SFPs. So if you want to physically segment your network from a throughput point of view and create lots of sort of demilitarized zones and so on and so forth, depending on your security policy, you move on up the device range, you get more capabilities, you get more throughput, all of the things you'd expect, obviously, but there's a cost associated with that as well. It goes without saying. Then basically we move on to the sort of characterizations of the Usg Flex family and how to understand migrations, essentially. This is a slightly misleading slide, so I kind of feel about apologies, really. This is really for those people that do use the Nebula family and they're already using the NSG products. This is just the migration path for the NSG products to the Usg Flex, which is fairly straightforward. Perhaps the more relevant one for people that are used to the Usg series is the Usg to Usg Flex migration path. And so this is just looking at the older device, what kind of stateful packet inspection throughput it's spec for, obviously plus AV, and then compare that against the appropriate Usg Flex model. I would say, obviously, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck for the Usg Flex, and I would also try and choose your model based on where the customer will be perhaps in 18 months' time, not just where it is now, because obviously the amount of fiber being deployed and the ability to get quite cost-effective 1 gigabit bearers, but with, say, 100 megabits over it, it's very easy to turn that up to 200 megabit. So you don't really want to have to throw out the current device and replace it. So try and think about, where does the customer want to be in 18 months' time over, say, a 3 or 5 year period, and try and scale and discuss the solution on that basis, because otherwise you'll be changing it in no time at all. And then we move on to some of the other migration features that are coming up into the Usg Flex family. So if I step back a little bit, the Usg series comes with a bundled license and a separate license. So it comes with, say, web filtering, intrusion prevention, anti-malware, email security, as you can see there. What we say, if you're migrating from, if you want to trade in, trade up sort of thing, and you've currently got a Usg series device out there, we take the longest outstanding service license that's left. So in this case, it's 7 months for the web filtering license. We then flatten that to say that all of those services are extended for 7 months. Then when you add that to your Usg Flex license, which comes with a bundled for 12 months, we add the 7 months to the end of it. And so you get 19 months in total. So if you are upgrading and someone says, well, I've still got a certain number of months left on a license, I don't want to waste that, which is, fair enough, it's sensible enough, isn't it? We've got a migration path in there to take care of that. And in fact, obviously there's a benefit. So if you've got one license that's out of kilter, we take the longest period, add it to 12 months and off you go. So there's no loss basically. So you can, if you want to discuss migrations, you can start doing it now, get prepared and migrate people from USGs to Usg Flexes and not lose any licensing. And these slides are examples of ones I'm going to go through quite quickly. So basically the competitive matrix is here. So you've got Zyxel, Usg Flex 100, and comparing it against the various Fortinet, Sonic Wall, and WatchGuard products. So once again, if you know what your throughputs and requirements are, compare it against the appropriate column and row, make your selection, and off you go. So we've got it. We've got the competitive matrix information for all of the different models. And then after that, we move on to the ultimate range. So this is the ATP series. This has been around, this was launched just before the Usg Flex, late 2019, beginning of 2020. Excuse me. So once again, you can see the look and feel of the slides to discuss with your customer. These features I've already mentioned for the other products. I'm going to talk about the features that are unique to the ultimate series. The whole point of the ATP device family was basically, obviously, the conventional UTM technologies are very good, but obviously certain things like zero-day threats and so on and so forth, the traditional mechanisms of picking those kind of attacks up, antivirus signatures and heuristics and things like that, obviously don't apply to zero-day threats because you don't know the threat is out there, hence the term zero-day. Now, what the ATP devices do, this is showing you some examples of conventional UTM. So basically there are obviously known good things. So basically files that are quite simple, a text file or whatever, or a file that doesn't have a match with an antivirus signature pattern. And there are files that are obviously very suspicious and known bad. So you scan a file, signature matches, bang, it's obviously a virus. And then unfortunately, there are certain kind of content in the middle that you don't really know, sort of suspicious, but literally unknown, hence it's grey on here. So what this is basically saying is that these unknown threats are so-called zero-day threats as well, are very, very dangerous. You can't realistically just let them through because unless everybody in your company is very careful about what they open, what they click on and so on and so forth, you're really asking for trouble. So this is where the ATP comes into its own. Basically, it blocks this kind of suspicious traffic and sends it over to a special cloud engine, which is one of the global integrators that we've licensed their security engine from. So what happens is, I'm going to show you, basically it's using cloud intelligence, artificial intelligence. It's somewhat easier looking at this drawing, so that's why I'm going forward a bit fast. So what happens is, an unknown threat comes in, so an attachment or a pattern or whatever, and it gets sent over to the cloud engine. And what this cloud engine does is it has this thing called the sandbox, which is a safe environment to take files apart. So we will undo the zip file, or we will execute the attachment or whatever in a safe environment, in a so-called sandboxed environment. And that is all going on. This is all going on within the cloud. So this is all going on within Amazon Cloud, on special servers and systems that are designed to be safe to do this kind of thing in it. So if you take something apart, run it or execute it or look at it, so say for instance you've got a PDF file that somehow tries to change your password or something like that, clearly there's no way that a PDF should be trying to change your password or run some sort of Windows binary or something like that. So it says the behavior of that attachment is completely invalid, has to be a security threat, analyzes it further to create a heuristics scanning pattern and throws it into the bin. Basically, there's the concept of a shredder, the thing that says defense intelligence. So it gets shredded, but also we do take information about that so that you can basically turn it into a recognizable signature. So there's a positive feedback. So the unknowns come in, they get characterized, they get executed within the sandbox safely, shredded, but then the signature that is available from that unknown threat is put into the global signature databases. So there's a positive global ecosystem essentially going on in real time. So all of the ATPs, all of the engines that are out there that are learning, then feed back, and you're proactively feeding back all that information into the security engine. And this is really where these ATP devices come into their own. Because as I said, the zero-day threats are incredibly difficult to get to detect. This particular slide here is focusing on last line. Basically, last line is the engine that is being licensed by us. It's normally very expensive. It is expensive. It's used heavily in enterprise environments for breach detection, and this is where the sandboxing solution comes from. And the reason it's being put into a slide here, basically, this is a very interesting slide that shows you the total cost of ownership against the security effectiveness. Okay, so you can see that last line, which is what's leveraged by the Zyxel Ultimate ATP family, is way up at the top there, 100%. You can see that Cisco is very high up there, but you can see that the Cisco cost is just vast. And you can see the cost of having normally this kind of environment or capability in an enterprise space is pretty expensive. But the way we have leveraged the engine from last line with our own product sets, our own hardware, and then we amortize those costs over our SMB space. So what we're saying is we're offering you a really top-end security solution at a much more affordable SMB price point. And it's these kind of slides that you can show to your customers to try and help get that across, because they might say, well, why do we want that? Well, if you want the kind of zero-day threat protection, which to be honest, I can't see why you wouldn't want it. It doesn't make much sense. The price differential between Usg Flex and an ATP, is not that high, given the increased security you get from like protection of zero-day threats. You'd be mad not to. But that's my personal opinion. You can see the advantages of this engine and the cost effectiveness versus the other market leaders. So having said that, you've got a similar product family set. Obviously looks very similar to the Usg Flex. 100 family, 100 with a wireless, 200 and so on and so forth. Once again, the capabilities are on there. One of the more unique features about the gold licensing, which comes with these devices, is that the gold license includes all of the features and the maximum version of things like, so for instance, wireless LAN, access point controller, the number of devices that you can manage on a Usg Flex. The default is say 8 and the maximum can be 24, but you've got to apply an additional license to get to 24. The ATP Ultimate family, as the name Ultimate implies, everything is licensed off of that gold security pack to the maximum. So you don't have to worry about additional features on top of it. It's everything is maximumed. So you just choose your device based on the requirements. Off you go. Once again, we have the competitive matrix. I'll go through it pretty quick, but you can see same old feel. Choose your device, choose your requirements. If you're used to a competitive product, find the competitive product and work to the left, and you'll see what device we offer. Then we move on to another very useful feature called Secure Reporter, which is not a device in itself, but obviously one of the issues with any kind of network security offering is how do you report against it? How do you actually find out what's going on? What are the threats that your company is being exposed to? What are your users up to? What's your bandwidth utilization, so on and so forth. And we've had this Secure Reporter, which is basically a cloud-based reporting platform. We've had it out there as an option that you would additionally license for a good few years now. But last year, we decided to include the feature in the license pack. So if you've got a complete bundled license, for the Usg Flex, or you've got a ATP product with the gold license, gold pack license, you get Secure Reporter for free included. And what it is, basically, as it said, it's a multi-tenanted reporting platform. You basically configure your on-premise device to point at the Secure Reporter environment. You make sure your Secure Reporter license is registered on the MyZyxel portal, and then you fire off your on-premise device, and it will start reporting into the cloud. And what it does is it takes all of the input data from the device, sends it over to the Secure Reporter area in Secure Reporter cloud-based engine, which it does sort of time normalization from it, so you can do graphical visualization, extracts all the appropriate data and correlates it, and then you can have it's a multi-tenanted environment. So if you are a service provider, you can have individual customers, individual sites, and so on and so forth. So you can have an overall dashboard, so you can go to the dashboard, see what the issues are, start drilling down. Obviously, like most sort of environments, it has alerting mechanisms. You can create reports from it of the next slide is showing you the who, what, and the when. So basically, like any environments, particularly noisy security environments, how do you actually find out who's up to what, when are they doing it? You know, is somebody trying to attack the finance department? Is somebody trying to attack R&D to get intellectual property, so on and so forth? So what it does is it gives you the ability to find out what the kind of threats are. So i.e. perhaps having lots of network probes coming from particular areas, or are you receiving lots of particular attachments with viruses in them? So who they're trying to target, what time is it going on, do you have a rough idea who the attacker is, and where is the attacker coming from? So you can get all this information so you can become much more user aware, as the name says here. So if you're an IT manager or a security policy manager, or even a commercial manager or something like that, and you want to understand what your users are up to, this is the kind of platform that allows you to do it. As I said, it's multi-tenanted. So if you're an MSP, it gives you a centralized ability to do that. It's scalable. If you buy another device, you just register the device, add it to the system, off it goes. We take care of scaling. It's all cloud-based. One of the other nice things is you can obviously have customized alerts, as it says here, but you also have customizable reporting. So you can create your own. So if you are, say, want to be a security service provider, or you want to provide a good level of feedback to your customers, you can customize the report with your own icons and email addresses and so on and so forth. They can also be scheduled. So if you wanted a report to be automatically sent out to your customer once a month, you can do that. You could then maybe let your account manager know that you could then contact that customer, discuss the security report, any issues that are on the report. So it's a good way of having a conversation with the customer. One important thing to point out is that you can be GDPR compliant, even if we aren't out of the EU. So there's different types of, as it says here, you can be non-anonymous or you can be fully anonymous. So it doesn't look at the data transfers as such. You're looking at sourcing destinations and the type of attack patterns and so on and so forth. So there is no, there's no mechanism to snoop on the traffic, is what I'm saying. But you can identify users if required based on IP address or certain other information flowing through. So you can work out who a user is, or you can make it partially anonymous so that you've got some individual reference that could be looked up, or you can be fully anonymous. So it's really up to the customer, their policy, so on and so forth. So finally, this is just one of the links that shows you how to get started. You can go to that site, log in, as I said, register the serial number on MyZyxel, fire the on-premise device up and configure it, and literally off you go. This is just one of the license sheets, basically. So historically, you needed a license for Secure Reporter for the older devices. That doesn't apply nowadays for the newer Usg Flex or ATP products. Nearly at the end, everybody. A couple of things I wanted to point out for anybody that isn't aware. Basically, obviously, a security device, if it goes down, pretty critical, obvious. So basically, we have a 4-year warranty uplift, next business day 4-year warranty uplift. It's I think it's about £35, something like that. It's next to nothing. So these are just the part numbers for that device. I kind of think people would be mad not do it. And I'm not doing it from sort of selling more or anything like that. It's just this is the part number. Turns out a lot of resellers aren't aware of these warranty uplifts, so I'm just pointing it out. One of the things I touched on was that the Usg Flex family would be manageable by Nebula. This is just a blog post about that coming up. Have a read about it. And the other two links that are coming up, which are very interesting, hopefully, we've got a security trading campaign, which has been live since early January. It's valid for 3 months. It offers a 15% discount on registered trade-in, trade-out devices. This is the link to it. And also, we are trying to make, as I said, the Zyxel network security products that much easier to understand and get their head around. So I'm actually going to try and dive off to the two web pages. So this is hopefully you can see this is the security landing page. So you can see the look and feel in relation to the slides. But what it does have, it emphasizes the nature of where we're coming from in the SMB space. So these are fully integrated solutions. So the security devices work with our switches, our wireless, our cloud managed products, so on and so forth, LTE and 5G and so on and so forth. We're just emphasizing that they are from the SMB space. We're not in the enterprise space. We're specifically focused on the SMB space. And a lot of people don't realize also our service offerings. We have European servicing staff out there. There's an awful lot of information on the support site, from how to set up VPNs, policy, literally all kinds of things. There's an awful lot of information on the support site. Firmware upgrades are free. Device high availability is free from the appropriate level device. And obviously there's a lot of installation and support and troubleshooting information and services that you can request or pay for additional configuration services as well via the support site. So the idea of the website is, as I said, simplicity, flexibility, ultimate, choose your requirement, start drilling down so you can look at the VPN series, the Usg Flex series. Sounds quite obvious, isn't it? But hopefully it's a lot easier to actually select the family you want based on the criteria that you understand. So perhaps it's quite a simple one here. If you want to do it on a simple term of number of users, you can do that. And then there's some other links here which are very useful. Is obviously licensing. I wouldn't think it'd be an issue, but this is quite a simple license finder in. I've just clicked on it. You can put the product in, you can get the requirement, and that up comes the license partner. And obviously you can go back to your reseller and purchase the appropriate license. This particular, all the licenses, you've got all the particular types. So if you want to find geographical enforcement, you can click on that, and up comes the feature, geographical enforcement. So the whole point of the landing page is just to be that more focused on the Zyxel security products, rather than just if you go to the main website and you see everything. Sometimes if you're just looking for a security product, it may be not as easy to understand. So this is where we're coming into it with the security landing page. They also mentioned the trade-in, trade-up. These links are obviously on the slide there, but you can register a device, fill in the form, basically put in the type of device, serial number, and so on and so forth. Obviously, we need you to declare that you want to dispose of the device correctly and properly, and then that will create a bid, and we will get in touch. You'll get a quote from the distributor. You can order it, and off you go. Quite straightforward. And that'll be available for, well, it is available for the next 3 months, up until March. So thank you very much for your time, everybody. I will hang around if anybody wants any questions and answers. Sorry, it's a bit longer than I thought. I was trying to race through some of the competitive information, but maybe that's need to go a bit faster. Also, if you aren't aware of the Zyxel MSP program, put that slide up for you. That's msp.zyxel.com. Obviously, particularly if you're a service provider or you're starting to go down that space, might be relevant. Please go to that site and have a look. And thank you very much indeed. I hope you have a good afternoon. Stay safe, and thank you very much indeed. I'll stay around if anybody's got any questions.